Uh, where were you when the attacks occurred?
I was home living on the Lower East Side and luckily was off that day, or so I thought. And when I woke up and looked out the window, the attacks had just happened. I guess it might have been what woke me up as I was sleeping in. And it looked like it was snowing outside. I didn't look directly down on the towers, but I was nearby. So there was all this ash coming down, and there was all these people crossing a bridge. You can see from my window the Williamsburg Bridge. And so I thought, oh, I wonder what kind of parade this is, and how odd that it's flurrying. And it didn't all sink in until I turned the TV on. And then that's how I actually really first found out.
What were your first feelings or emotions when you heard about the attacks?
And it's just complete and utter shock. If ever there was a good description of feeling like the whole world had just collapsed, it felt like the whole world was ending, because it created, a lot of more unknowns. We didn't know if anything else was happening, if anything else was planned, and all my circumstances changed immediately. There was no phone service, there were no trains or buses, there was no traffic in and out of my neighborhood, and then just the smoke and the ash for days and days and days. So, as horrifying as what it was at the very beginning, it just kind of kept being real awful and real shocking.
Did you know anyone in the towers, Pentagon, or one of the planes?
I did not. I did not know anybody in any of those places. And there are places that I had visited. I've flown in planes before. Never went inside the Pentagon, but I went and saw it. I've been in Pennsylvania many, many times, and have been to the World Trade Center for dinner, and with friends up to the observatory for the view, and had been there many times. And so, no more. There was no way that I was ever going to see those places again.
Have you ever visited Ground Zero?
I have. Organization that I was involved with, that was a support organization at the time, worked with patients that were terminally ill. But some of the group programs, the group support programs that we had there, were at one point being run at a church down there on Wall Street. I forget the name of it now. It's been so many years ago. Where they had set up, meals for all the emergency workers and all the volunteers, and kind of rest areas. And they just kept the church open around the clock. And a lot of different things went on for like all of the rescue, all of the, all the people searching for remains, all the people, maybe who weren't emergency personnel, but who were just like kind of clearing, but who witnessed things they never imagined they would have to see. So I was there then, and I have been to just once, and I have been since another time to visit when the memorial first opened, which is very touching, very beautiful place.
Do you relive the feelings that you felt when the attack actually happened, wait, let me restart. Do you relive the feelings you felt when the attack actually happened, and when you see videos or read articles?
Well, certainly yes, is the short version. Anything that's in your memory, you remember something, it's like you're reliving it. I remember going to the beach as a kid, and I remember, a lot of different things. And so, yeah, it's kind of in a way reliving it. I don't have any sort of like post-traumatic stress disorder or anything like that because I wasn't that involved directly. It was just really unnerving to like not be able to leave my neighborhood for days. The grocery store after a couple of days was running really low on food. And finally, I don't remember, it may have been a week, a good 7 days before some limited train service started, the subway, the public transportation system. And so I packed a bag on that day, and I walked quite a ways till I could get to where the train was running, so I could go and visit and stay with a friend of mine.
How do you think the nation and its leaders came together in the days following September 11th?
Well, considering this had only happened one other time in the history of our country, when it was Pearl Harbor, I imagine, there was some preparation somewhere, but nobody ever expects this. And so, considering that it was a total shock to the public, anyway, the people of the city of New York, the firefighters, the National Guard, all this, the state troopers and fire rescue personnel, and hundreds of volunteers from other departments and other parts of the country. There was, a huge amount of people that were donating food for these workers that were trying to clear the rubble which that took months, by the way, because they had to be very careful to look for people's remains, and there was just so much that went on. I think all that effort was really, really good. Just amazingly good. Just what good represents. And then, as far as on a federal level, I'm not in the government. I'm not an elected official. I don't know. And I do know the Department of Homeland Security was born out of that loss and tragedy. And I imagine there's a lot of changes in how our government, our military, and our secret services approach, what threat actually means. So I'm sure you have to see some value somewhere of something, so terrible.
Do you think anything should be done to promote security air travel?
Well, a lot has been done. The Transportation Safety Administration was formed, and so they're independent of the airlines, and they check, and they screen, and they train, and so that's one thing that has already changed. Bad people with bad intentions will do anything they can to do bad things. If that's what drives them, if doing bad is what motivates them. And it's like looking both ways before crossing the street. Like, you just do it. You just be vigilant and, work together, collaboratively as a society.
What aspects of American life do you think were changed after the 9/11 terrorist attack?
How people feel, their level of safety was affected for a good long time. A huge amount of military that were sent away to fight a war that's ongoing still. So their families, children born with, one of their or both their parents, deployed. That's changed quite a bit for hundreds of thousands of people. Certainly the way we fly has changed. And I would say those three things: the military, their families, how we view the world as far as our level of safety, and how we fly. The biggies.
Could you see anything out on the streets after the attacks happened?
Well, My apartment faced northeast, and the island of Manhattan gets very narrow down in the lower tip. And so, not from my apartment, but from outside and down certain avenues. And, it was cordoned off for a while as well. You had to, prove you were volunteering, or you couldn't just walk in there or walk down there. So you could see that there was a lot of barricades and emergency vehicles for a good long time, for months and months afterwards.
In your opinion, are there any lessons to be learned from what happened on September 11th?
Wyatt, I'm sorry. With the last question, there was also a plume of smoke that smoldered for weeks and weeks while people were trying to work there and recover remains of the dead. And so that plume of smoke you could see also from down certain avenues, or if you were, over in Brooklyn and riding the train over the bridge, things like that. So that was just a reminder for many, many weeks as well. That was very visual.
Okay, so do you think there should be any lessons learned from 9/11?
The one lesson is that the world has changed. And that's a pretty big lesson, because the world is where we live. And I can't think of something other than that. I mean, that's a huge one. The world is not what we thought it is. And here we are.